Hello, my name is Evan Joyner. This is going to be my final for juvenile justice. This could be my road trip. So basically, I'll be picking 5 different locations that have to do with the history of juvenile justice that are kind of unique. I really want to focus on the historical aspect of things. So my first location is going to be the Lighthouse Youth and Family Services Center. I'm going to focus on the one that was founded in Cincinnati, Ohio. So basically, it was founded by a group of African American ladies who went to an African American church in Cincinnati. They wanted to build a home for at-risk girls. So at the time, this was only open to young females. And basically, it was only for at-risk girls who needed an escape, wanted a second chance, because keep in mind, this is at a time where no one really cared for delinquents. If you were caught, arrested at this time, you were either deemed mentally ill, thrown into a asylum, or kind of just let go free, no consequences. So this is a place where they could face the consequences, they would face counseling, have a religious background. So it would give some type of faith base for them to kind of revolve around. They would end up receiving federal funding from President Nixon in 1971. They would be given $50,000 in operational funds. So this is the first residential home that the government really ever gave money to. And that's why it's so revolutionary, is because at a time when everyone kind of gave up, they kind of started a new trend. And these places can be seen all across the country today. So my next location is going to be the Regional Youth Detention Center off of Mike Paget Highway. So basically, this is a place where juveniles go. If you're sentenced to do a certain amount of time, it's kind of like a youth prison, but it's also used as a youth jail, like holding, waiting for your trial. Before there were youth detention centers, kids were either thrown into jail with adults, or they were put into an asylum. So youth detention centers kind of revolutionized giving kids a safer place, because if they were thrown in with adults, there's a lot that can happen, sexually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and then put into an asylum, they're just kind of left there. They're kind of lost causes at that point. So youth detention centers, well, while it's not the most ideal place for them to go, this is kind of better than it used to be, I guess you could say. The next location I'll be picking will be the House of Refuge. Specifically, I want to pick the one in New York City. This is the first one, the one that kind of revolutionized everything. From this point on, kind of gave residential homes a place even to today's system. It was started by Thomas Eddy and Jod Griscom. They organized a program where they were opposed to youth being housed with adults in jails and prisons. And it wasn't really looked at that much by the New York state government. So in 1825, they decided to take it upon themselves, start the New York House of Refuge. And basically it was designed to get kids off the street, poor kids, delinquents, vagrant youth who were deemed by authorities to be on a path towards delinquency. By the 1840s, there were 25 different locations, so that just shows how fast they grew. Within 20 years, 15 to 20 years, they created 25 different locations. They had saved thousands of kids off the street, gave them second chances at life. So this is one of the original training schools, reform schools. So The next location I'll be picking will be the United States Supreme Court. The reason for this, because they've made so many decisions over the past 150, 200 years that have led to juveniles having rights, having better lives, stuff like that. As recently as 2005, they approved that it was illegal to give anyone under the age of 18 the death penalty, no matter what their crimes were. In the 60s, the Supreme Court made a series of decisions to introduce counseling for at-risk youth, also parent-child counseling. So these were things passed as punishments that they could set forth. They were kind of giving guidelines at the time, moving away from such extreme punishments that they would give adults and moving towards more of a model of rehab rather than a model of punishment. The next location I'll be picking will be the San Francisco Industrial School. It's disbanded now because there was a lot of stuff going on within it in its later years that were not very good. But this was kind of revolutionary at the time. It provided kids with an opportunity. This was not a residential school. It would be where kids would be sent, trained, get new skills so they could go back into society, function correctly, contribute. But in 1891, it failed as a system. The city's Judiciary Committee denounced it. They said it was a failed system. They said it didn't work. But if you look around today, there's plenty of these reform schools, training schools where kids go, day schools, camps. So yeah. So my sources for this project were the US, sagepub.org. Next, I used the Lighthouse Youth and Family Services website, so it's lys.org. I used the history tab. The next one I used was the Regional Youth and Detention Center website. Locally, it'll take you to the state website, and within there you can find the history of each location. And then the next one I used was cj.org. This is where I got two of my sources from, or locations. This is where I got the New York House of Refuge, as well as the San Francisco Industrial School.